Ashley Wyton from Veracity is going to tell us about Veracity Cold Store and how it works with Spectrum, along with, I'm sure, some other things that we could learn about too.
Thanks a lot, Paul, and thank you to the DW team in general for hosting this for us. I'm really pleased to be here. I'm presenting this live from the United Kingdom. At the moment, I'm here. My king is with you. I know you'll have all seen that in the news this week, but I'm going to take you through Cold Store and some of the differentials that we have in the Cold Store technology. So Cold Store, here at Veracity with Cold Store, we do things slightly differently to a standard system, and you'll see that as we go through the presentation. Without further ado, let me get started. So let's discover more about Cold Store, and more specifically, Cold Store in collaboration, in conjunction, embedded with DW Spectrum. But before I do that, I've got a few members of the team on the call today. So I'm the Global Sales Director and Vice President of Sales USA. I also hold several other titles. I look after the global sales team, so often find myself in far-flung places around the world. But on the call, actually with us today, we have Jay, and I can see Tracy. Bill's also here, but there are a couple of others in the team, as you can see on the screen. So Jay covers West, Tracy covers Central, Naidu covers our East Coast, and Daniel is up in Canada. So Veracity, for those of you that don't know who we are, synonymous in the market for our transmission products, and you'll be forgiven for believing that's all we do, because a lot of people believe that. So Veracity have been around since 2005, and we started in the marketplace with the high wire. So the Veracity high wire product, which is in Ethernet over coax, and then we expanded that range out, and then we moved into other areas, and storage being one of those pillars of our business. We do also do video display controllers. So we have a transmission, storage and display, and some integrated security management platforms. We're around 130 people globally across now 10 offices, actually. So it used to be 9, but it's now actually 10, right the way from Southeast Asia, right the way through to the US. And we distribute to over 50 countries. So what we're going to talk to you today about is obviously storage, and it's imperative that I start with the basics, which is IT data versus video data. Forgive me if you already know this. Some of you on this call will be very familiar with it, but those of you who aren't, I'm going to take you through just a very brief kind of differential. So the main differences between IT data and video data is how it's generated. So when you're on your PC and you're working on a Word document, you're typing save, you type save. Or if you're like me, you type a whole document, forget to save, and then lose the lot and have to start again. But it's also different in terms of how it's stored. On your system, you fragment the data across the drive. And if you're working on a big array, big storage array, it's fragmented across the entire array. And then the system knows that it's indexed and stored. It's retrieved, modified, manipulated, and deleted in various different ways, depending on the system. But we don't do things by norm. We do things very differently. And I'm going to, obviously, as I said, I'm going to come on to that. The other thing in storage is hard disk reliability. So hard disks have come on a very long way. So they are very reliable now, but video applications absolutely push them to the limit. And the reason is because you are constantly recording to the drives, particularly in a RAID system. You are recording 24/7, 365 days a year to those drives, which actually then creates temperature, vibration, which ultimately creates wear on the drive. And obviously security budget cycles are much longer than IT. In the IT world, systems are changed frequently, whereas in the security world, people want them to go in and work for 5+ years, sometimes 10+ years. And we've got systems out there now deployed for upwards of 15 years with the same hard drives. And the reason we do that is because we reduce that temperature, vibration, and wear. And the way we do that is we use LAID instead of RAID. But RAID systems are generally designed for IT data storage. And it's not the ideal way to do large disk capacities, which in surveillance systems, you're looking at 30, 90, 120 days plus sometimes. So they're very large systems. And RAID, as much as RAID has become the norm, it's not necessarily the best way to do it, because if a drive fails, and occasionally, as I've just said, they do because of that wear on the drives, you need to rebuild the whole array. When we look at Cold Store, our Cold Store concept is very different. It's designed specifically for video surveillance. It's focused on video data recording, and it exploits the data characteristics that you get from video. And that is a constant flow of data. It's like water coming in. So when we record video data, it's constantly coming in. There's no break in it. There's no stopping and changing, no saving this, saving that. It's just coming in a constant flow all of the time, because that's what video data does. But what we do, we use SFS and LAID. I'll come on to exactly what LAID is right now. So LAID only uses 2 drives at a time, and we call those a mirrored pair. So we record to 2 drives. All of the other drives in that array, as you see on the screen, are all asleep. They're not working, they're not spinning, they're not doing anything. Then once the two drives that we've recorded to full, we skip on to 2 and 3, and we leave 1 preserved, and so on as we go through the array. I'll show you a video now. Hopefully this will play. The wonders of technology. So you'll see here on the screen what I'm saying. So I've just shown you graphics. Let's show you video 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and so on. If one of those drives fails, and we'll see in a second, drive 7 is going to fail. It's funny how I know this video. Drive 7 will fail. The system recognizes that failure and will preserve the data on 6, skip over, and just continue to record on 8 and 9. So the data is preserved. There you go. And the system will continue to do that, and it will ignore that disk 7 for the entire cycle of the array. So that could be there unless somebody goes back to replace it. It'll just keep ignoring it. Obviously, your storage capacity will be reduced, but it will have no effect on the system whatsoever. I'm going to pause very slightly there and ask if anybody's got any questions at that point, Paul, if that's okay, just because people often have questions at this point.
I have one question.
Go for it.
If the drive fails, so it's working on it, the drive fails, do you have any data loss, or does it kind of look back at the other drive and then start writing to 8 and 9, let's just say?
It's a great question. And the answer to that question is no, you have no data loss. And the reason for that is because you're recording to that mirrored pair. So you're recording to 2 drives at a time. So what it means is you've got the same data being striped to 2 drives. So when drive 7 fails, as it did in that video, you've preserved, because it stops record, because it knows the disk has failed. The system is intelligent enough to say, okay, we'll skip over now and we'll go to 8 and 9. So 6 will be preserved at the point that it failed. So the only time you'll lose that data on 6 is when it goes around the whole cycle. So if you don't replace the drive or you don't retrieve the data, it will go around. Brian, it is similar to RAID 10, but actually probably more RAID 1, because we're recording to single drives at a time. And yes, it does overwrite. So we designed the system for you with the right size drives for the duration and bit rate that you require. So you give that to us, and our team will design the array with the right storage levels, and we can go up to 26 terabytes, and I'll come on to the models we have in a moment. But yeah, it overwrites as it goes around the array, as any system would. So once you've filled your capacity, whether that be 30, 60, 90, 120 days and above, it'll go back round. Does that make sense now, Paul? Did that answer the question?
Perfectly. I was just wondering that one moment in time, do you lose anything? It doesn't sound like you do, so that's great.
No, you don't. So the beauty of COLDSTORE, it's actually your server, your storage, and redundancy in one box. So we can run a system on one COLDSTORE. If you want a fully redundant system, we can run a system with one COLDSTORE because of that mirrored pair. We can actually go to 3 drives at a time if you want. So for high secure solutions, and we do have those out there, we can configure the system to record to 3 drives at a time. And there's another question there about the same drive sizes. No, but obviously it makes it easier if all the drives are the same, because for calculation purposes. So we generally stick to it, depending on the size you need. We've got anything from 10 terabyte right the way up to 26 terabytes. Okay,
all right, perfect.
So then on top of that, to also preserve the drives a little bit more, because obviously with them asleep, they're not spinning, they're not doing anything, they're just sat idle. So there's no heat generation, no vibration, and the power consumption is extremely low in a LAID system. We actually run a 48 bay machine, so 48 26 terabyte drives on 175 watts of power. And you did hear that correctly. I didn't misspeak. It is 175 watts. Our 2U and 3U machines are around 70 watts of power, so less than a light bulb. So the next part of the system is, and the next part of the concept that we have within COLDSTORE is SFS. And I'm using the word concept, just to be clear, this has been around for 12 years and used extremely successfully in lots of big projects. So concept is a word we use, but it's not conceptual, it is actual. We've got a lot of your prison correctional facilities that use COLDSTORE because of that long storage capacity requirement. But SFS is the next part of it. And because of our deep integration with DW, we can do SFS. Other VMSs we can't do SFS with because they don't behave the way DW does. So the DW Spectrum is a very well behaved, very efficient VMS that allows us to use this sequential filing system. And what it means is we record the data in a sequential way, like a record player. And I'm going to show another video in a second. But we write the data to the drive in a sequential fashion. The data is coming in sequentially, so we record it sequentially. That means that you haven't got the needle moving, so the mechanics of the needle aren't constantly back and forth. They're not creating, as I say, that vibration, the wear on the disk plate, and they're not generating heat like a normal RAID 5 or RAID 6 system does. We actually believe we make drives last up to 10, maybe 20 times longer. And as I say, we've got real world examples of drives in systems out in the field for 10 plus years. So here's a video that will demonstrate what I've just been talking about. So on the right, you've got standard disk filing system, and you can see the needle is moving as a system, as you would expect. So it's recording, indexing, recording, indexing. On the right hand side, we've got SFS, sequential filing, and you can barely see that needle moving, but let me assure you it is. And it's coming in from the outside edge of the platter, and it will move all the way into the middle. And then obviously it starts again once you're around the array. So it means your write speeds are far higher, and you can see that on the screen, up to nearly touching 2000 megabits versus 700. Any questions on that at that point? Because people often have to ask questions at that point as well. Okay. I think we're good. As I've said, as I've been talking, the benefits, we've got extreme disk reliability, extremely low power consumption across the entire range. There is no need to data rebuild if you do have a failure, because it just skips on and just carries on as though it's not happened. If you do need to replace a drive, you just simply go, pull the drive out. You don't need to power the system down. You pull the drive, that goes back to wherever it needs to go to be either repaired or recycled. You pop another drive in. You need to tell the system that you've replenished the drive, so the system then knows and resets itself, so it will, as it goes around the array, will start to record to that replaced drive. But it's as simple as that. In fact, we had a site where a customer didn't believe us. We had a live demo running. The customer didn't believe that we could just pull drives, and he was asking, go and pull another one, go and pull another one. You actually only need 3 drives in a system to be effective. So it will work with just down to 3 drives. Obviously, your storage capacity will be reduced dramatically, but we can actually operate with just 3 drives in the system. In terms of the models available, as I said, we have a 2U, a 3U, and a 4U model. So that's an 8 bay, 16 bay, and a 48 bay. We believe that covers all applications, right the way from your medium commercial up to low enterprise, right the way through to enterprise. And you can see, obviously, with 26 terabyte drives, we can achieve 1.2 petabyte of storage. We only need 10% of the array for OS, by comparison to up to 30% in RAID. So we obviously get a lot more net usable storage in a COLDSTORE also, just because of the way it does things. We can do up to, it says 100 channels on here. That has actually very recently changed. We can now do up to 256 channels on a DW COLDSTORE. So you can put 256 channels per box, and you literally just stack the boxes. So you just build. So if you have 2,560 cameras, we literally just put 10 boxes in a system, and obviously the system will do the failover and all of that kind of stuff. All of the boxes come with dual power supply if you need it. We do single power supplies, but most people take the dual power supplies for redundancy. Their metadata recording is all available as well for analytics, and we're on with S, T, and G for recording and playback. So I missed that. I just had a question flash up and it's gone. About 8 terabytes. I can get to that.
Let me look for it. Oh, do you still recommend to use smaller sites, maybe 8 terabytes?
Don't
do you
know
still
what
recommend it to smaller sites, maybe 8 terabytes? You'd have to put 3 8 terabyte drives in there, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what that mean. We can go down to 8 TB drives, and we have systems out there. It just depends on how much storage you require. And again, we've just done a quotation just yesterday because I was working on it with one of the team where we're putting 4 TB drives in because they only want 7 days recording. The bit rate of the cameras is really low. So yeah, we're pretty agnostic to size of drives. So we also obviously, as part of this whole process, we do the DW embedded. So that means that we send out the cold store preloaded with the DW Spectrum software. All that needs to be done in the field by the customer, the customer, is apply the licenses. So you buy your licenses from your normal place of purchase, you load those on to the software as you would using a standard server, and away you go. But it comes preloaded with DW, so it makes it really easy for you. We also give a 5-year warranty. So all of our products have 5-year warranty. And if you buy the drives from us, now I accept at the moment, I'm sure all of you are experiencing the problems of getting drives. Drives are really difficult at the moment, but we are doing a very good job. Bill is on the call, and I will give him the plaudits he deserves because he's doing a fantastic job of sourcing drives for us. So we do have a good stock of drives currently. It is a challenge finding them at the moment, but if you buy the drives from us, you also get 5 years warranty on the drives. Just a brief kind of application diagram, just to give you an understanding of roughly where it sits. But obviously the cold store sits on the network, bring everything in, and obviously it's pretty simple topography. You'll all recognize that, I'm very sure. So in summary, the cold store storage array is designed, obviously, as I've said, specifically for video. If you forgot all mediums of recording tomorrow, if we woke up tomorrow and there was no such thing as recording, we believe that cold store would be what you would come up with if you were asked to design a storage system. And I think Alistair McLeod, our founder, would be very proud to say that he's invented probably one of the best storage mediums around. And I'm sure once you guys start trying it, you'll agree with us. I've just seen another thing come through. We can absolutely do that. We can send you through where you can buy them. It's a Linux-based system. So the DW sits within a Docker. Somebody's just asked about the OS.